Welcome to my Homeopathic Remedy of the Month series. This is a series where I'll bring you detailed information about a specific homeopathic remedy or remedies so that you can better understand the remedy and what conditions it can potentially be used for. As always, please note that the remedy or remedies discussed can be used for the conditions mentioned, but aren't always the right remedy for your specific situation. If you are a home prescriber but do not see improvements from the remedies you use, please reach out to me for a consult so we can get your health moving in the right direction. The last 3 months, I've covered 3 cell salts for you. So you might be happy to know, or maybe not, that this month I'm moving away from cell salts and bringing you information on another polycrest remedy. Our remedy of the month this month is Ledum palustre. Ledum is particularly effective for bruising, bleeding, bites, and puncture wounds, and it has an affinity for the skin, joints, and tendons. It is definitely a favorite in our household because we tend to be mosquito magnets. And as I said, it is great for bites. It can knock out the itch from any insect bite pretty quickly. But it's not just for mosquito bites. It can be useful for any type of bite, whether from an insect, snake, or even a household pet. Anything that punctures the skin. And I'll touch more on this in just a minute. Ticks, Lyme disease. This is such a great remedy to use after you see that characteristic red bullseye rash and can be a heavy hitter for prevention of Lyme disease. One of the main keynotes for the use of Ledum for insect bites, including tick bites, is that the redness, itching, and swelling is typically better with cold applications. Similarly, it can be useful for joint pains, especially if the person feels better in cold weather or from cold applications. Something to consider with these types of joint pains is that the joints of the lower extremities are usually affected first, and pains then go into higher joints. The person also may tend to be worse in the evening or at night. Gout is a great example of when we can use Ledum. Redness, swelling, and pain in the small joints of the toes is where gout is most commonly seen. But it can tend to move into higher joints like the knee, the wrist, and the fingers. So Ledum can be extremely useful for those acute attacks. And sprains and strains where there's redness, pain, and swelling that is better from cold applications, it can be a good option for those too. So let me go back and touch on what I said about using it for anything that punctures the skin. Not only a puncture from an insect or animal bite, like I talked about before, but a puncture from a knife, a splinter, a needle, or other sharp object. We used Ledum after our daughter had her ears pierced. After all, that's a puncture wound. You can use it after a blood draw or any other unnameable procedure where a needle goes into your body. Sorry, can't say the V word on YouTube or I'll be censored. This is also one of the main remedies we think about if someone is concerned about tetanus. We all hear the story that if we step on a rusty nail, we'll get tetanus. And while that's typically not going to happen, another story for another time, it's the puncture wound from the nail that we're going to focus on here. So, Ledum to the rescue. I typically like to use it in these types of cases along with Hypericum because there's typically a lot of pain that goes along with a puncture wound, and Hypericum has an affinity for the nerves. I'll be talking about Hypericum next month, so stay tuned. I'll come back and link that video in the description below when it's live. Finally, bleeding and bruising. Well, bleeding of the capillaries underneath the skin is what leads to bruising. And while we may think of arnica for bruising, Ledum is another great option, especially if it's bruising around the eye, a black eye, or even eyes that are bloodshot. If bruising anywhere in the body lingers for a while and starts to turn a sort of green in color, consider using Ledum. There you have it, a look into Ledum palustre. I typically like to use this remedy in a 200C potency. We keep bulk quantities of it in this potency for our use, but it doesn't hurt to have it in a 30C potency. Match the severity of the symptoms with the frequency of use. If you want to learn more about homeopathy, consider joining me for an Intro to Homeopathy class in the future. I'll provide that link in the description below as well. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer those for you. And don't forget to like this video and share it with your friends. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you next time.